Welcome to the beginning of a crazy hockey week in the Music City tonight. The big week kicks off with the NHL Awards. Who do we think will win, and who do we think should win? It's not always the same answer. We'll break it down today on the Locked On Predators podcast.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making the Locked On Predators podcast your first listen of the day every single day. We are your free daily Nashville Predators podcast. That's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we want to say hey to our loyal Locked On Preds fans or Pred heads, whatever we're calling you people. You guys know who you are. You're the everydayers who listen to every single show. We are happy to have you on board. I'm Nick Morgan. I'm a writer at Penalty Box Radio, and I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Ann Kimmel. I'm a writer at InsideThePreds.com.
Welcome to a busy week in the Music City, Ann.
Yeah, this is going to be crazy and amazing, all rolled into one, and it kicks off tonight, y'all. Tonight kicks off the crazy in Nashville, and it's going to be great.
Yeah, and an interesting week for us because we've got some credentials to the NHL Award show. We're going to be credentialed for the draft in a couple of days, which means we are having some discussions on a whole lot of cool content coming up for you guys. So stay tuned for that. It should be an interesting week ahead, a very busy week ahead. But overall, I think it's going to be a fun one for hockey fans in Nashville, Ann.
I do. I think it's going to be great. And here is what we know about Nashville, regardless of what anyone else around the league says. Nashville knows how to throw a hockey party, my friends. They know how to throw a hockey party. So you can bet that there is going to be a ton going on down at Bridgestone Arena all week long. Be sure to check it out. Come on down. Come find us. Come say hello. It's going to be a great week. And look, Nashville Predators are going into this week with 13 draft picks and a whole lot of chutzpah. So lots of fun things happening.
Yeah, and who knows what topics we're going to be talking about come Wednesday night when the draft gets underway. We can have some trades. We can have a whole bunch of stuff. It is just anybody's guess, Ann.
Yeah. It's going to be great. So yeah, tune in. We're going to have all kinds of updates from the draft, from the award show. So keep it locked into Locked On Predators.
All right. Well, speaking of the award show, that's the first big old cookie to crumble tonight in the Music City. I believe it is a 7:00 Central start time. So we thought what we would do today is go through the big awards, talk about who we think will win, and then also debate who we think should win. Because I think, as everybody knows, those two answers aren't necessarily the same.
Yeah, they're not. We have a lot of beefs with the NHL Awards, you and I, at times. We've had some hitches in the giddy up about the awards. And one of my beefs is like, who's voting on what? And I wish we had a different system for that. That's my 2 cents worth.
I wish it was consistent.
Yes,
and I wish the same people would vote on the awards.
Yes, and I wish that they were better defined, y'all. Better defined awards. We've got a lot of beefs with them, but you know what we're going to do? We're going to make this all work anyway, because that's what we do.
There's some saltiness still from last year. We're going to go backwards, and we're going to start with the grand finale of them all, just because I think this might be the most boring debate of the awards that we have today. The Hart Trophy. The finalists, Connor McDavid, David Pastrnak, and Matthew Tkachuk. Do we have any arguments against Connor McDavid in both the will win / the should win?
Not even an ounce. And God bless David Pastrnak and Matthew Tkachuk, because these are two players that under any other circumstance would have some really good credentials for winning this award. But let's talk about what's real. This is Connor McDavid's award. It's the Connor McDavid Award.
Yeah. I mean, this, you look at 64 goals, 89 points, 153 points, the highest point total in a very long time. This dude was on a 70 goal pace for a while. I mean, it's just, it's funny because, going into this year, it was always like, oh yeah, Connor McDavid, he's, got all these points, but he's not the goal scorer. What does he do? Turn around and score 64 goals this year as just kind of a screw you to everybody. Yeah. And it's funny because I feel like every year, like consensus, we know who the best player in the NHL is. It's Connor McDavid. We've known that for probably at least 5-6 years, with the exception of that 1 year he got hurt halfway through. It always just seems like the argument is there an excuse not to have McDavid win? Like not to have it. So, you get always like Austin Matthews won it last year with his, 60 goal season. And it just seems like every year there's always like a kind of excuse to find like any reason to put anybody else other than McDavid. And just, you look at his stats and just, I get that stats aren't everything. That's a topic we'll get to in a couple other awards.
Yeah.
But I just don't see how you vote any other way than Connor McDavid. I will even throw a bone in here and say, if this isn't unanimous, like if there is one voter who doesn't have McDavid won,
is there going to be one voter this year who doesn't have McDavid on his ballot at all? Will he get Roman Yosi'd? I don't think so.
Does he wear a dumb hat also?
Well, and when you look at the Hart Trophy, it is defined as the most valuable to his team. And you can say, look, Connor McDavid, 153 points, 64 goals. He is just an offensive powerhouse. But it's the 89 assists for me. Look, Connor McDavid would make me look incredible on the ice, and I can't skate backward. This is a guy who is so valuable to the Edmonton Oilers. And it's not that they don't have plenty of other talent, but he is the most valuable to his team. Hands down.
100%. And maybe the most fun player to watch in the league. Maybe until a new Connor comes around here in just about, 2 days or so.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to one that may be a little bit more debate, Anne. Let's talk about the Calder Memorial Trophy, given to the best rookie in the NHL. This is down to Matty Beniers, Seattle Kraken.
Yeah.
Owen Power of the Buffalo Sabres. So basically the Michigan teammates from 1 year ago. And Stuart Skinner, goaltender for the Edmonton Oilers. And who do you think will win? And who do you think should win?
This one is a very interesting who will and who should for me. I think Matty Beniers is going to win this. And I don't have a huge objection to that at all. Matty Beniers, 80 games, 27 goals, 66 points. Like, what the Nashville Predators wouldn't do for production like that from their veterans, let alone a rookie. We would accept that. And I think Matty Beniers was really an important piece for Seattle, what they did in the postseason. Again, postseason not involved in the Calder Award, but just in hindsight, I can see Matty Beniers being a great candidate for this. Here's though who I think maybe should win.
Okay.
I think Stuart Skinner.
Interesting.
I really do. Look, this is a guy who played 50 games, 914 save percentage. He came in when Jack Campbell was kind of struggling and really kind of righted the ship for Edmonton. I think a lot of his play, his performance in net really covered up some struggles at times that Edmonton had. I would not object at all to Stuart Skinner winning the Calder.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly, I think, was the best goaltender option that the Oilers had in quite some time. Didn't exactly live up to it in the postseason. That's a different story. Thank God postseason is not.
Postseason doesn't count.
Up there. To me, and it's just, I think my answer to both is Matty Beniers.
Really?
He is the favorite to win. according to our friends at FanDuel.
Yeah.
But I also just think you look at what he did for the Kraken this year, 57 points as a true rookie. Seattle has that weird combination where they basically kind of roll out 4 lines equally, but you can make a strong argument that his line was the number 1 line. And, you look at that, you look at how Seattle made it to the second round of the playoffs this year. Yeah. And I just think there's too much there not to go, okay, not only did Beniers have a very strong statistical season, but he was, kind of the 20-year-old anchor on a team that exceeded a lot of expectations this year and made eventually a deep playoff run. I know that the votes come in before, the playoffs start, but right. I think the fact that Seattle got there and finished the regular season as well as they did, I think there's a lot of voters that are, or at least a lot of people that I think you look at and go like, okay, yeah, like that's somebody who I think is deserving of that.
Yeah. And again, I can't object if Matty Beniers wins this. I really can't, because he provided a role for Seattle that a veteran would have done. And he did it as a rookie. So I cannot object to it. But I just really think Stuart Skinner too stepped in and did a great job.
Yeah. A couple of other debates, including the Norris Trophy. This is going to be the most interesting one because how last year went and how some of the voters talk about last year's vote, I think may swing some of the conversation this year. So we're going to talk about that coming up in just 1 second. First, I want to mention today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. All of these guys nominated for the awards, they know that if they want to be on a championship team, they got to fit into that team just right. They got to be a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to the pieces of your car. Every part in your vehicle needs to fit just right to get that baby to work perfectly. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check mark to know that the part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million different parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. So get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers, eligible items only, and exclusions apply. All right, Ann, let's see. What award should we tackle next? How about the Jack Adams Award, awarded to the coach of the year? We have Dave Hackstall on the Seattle Kraken, Jim Montgomery of the Boston Bruins, and Lindy Ruff of the New Jersey Devils. Spoiler alert, for me, I think the winner is going to be different than the who should win.
Ooh, interesting. Okay, for me, the winner is going to be Dave Hackstall for Seattle.
That is not what I thought you were going to say.
Okay. Well, I have a couple reasons for this. I really feel like he took a team that most people in the league did not see being a team ready to make the playoffs, ready to compete at the level they did, and he got it done. So for me, I really like Dave Hackstall for this one. Will he win it? I guess I should say I think he should win it. Will he win it? I don't know. I have big feelings.
Okay, so he's your should win.
He's my should.
Okay, he's mine too.
Yeah, he's my should.
Okay.
I hope that he will win it. I think he's the right guy to win it. But who do you think is going to win it? Okay,
it's to me, it's hands down. I think Jim Montgomery is the guy that's going to win it. I mean, when you coach a team in your first year to the best regular season record in NHL history, there's going to be a lot of people looking at you and be like, yeah, that's a runaway favorite. And you look at the odds, Jim Montgomery is the runaway favorite to win this award. I just think Boston's team, itself was already loaded. Jim Montgomery certainly found, a way to make them all play. I think he deserves credit. I just think, you look what Dave Hackstall did in Seattle. And the way he sort of found a unique way, rolling 4 lines equally, elevating some depth defensemen, kind of, tweaking minutes here and there, depending on the game, and kind of, winning based on strategy, more so than, just plugging in some dynamic players in the lineup. That to me, I think, Hackstall did the better coaching job this year. I think Jim Montgomery did a great job getting that Boston Bruins team. But for me, I think the should be Hackstall. I would be shocked if it's anybody other than Montgomery who actually wins it, though.
I am so hoping it's Hackstall. I really am. But I agree with you. Jim Montgomery, I think, is probably going to win it. And you can't take away what he did. I also think when you walk into a roster that is as loaded as the Boston Bruins roster was, I think it's a little bit easier coaching job than what Dave Hackstall had. Dave Hackstall took pieces of a team and knit them together. I feel like maybe I could have coached the Bruins to the postseason because they're just that talented. And that's a very simplified statement. And I certainly don't mean to take away from how complicated the job is and how good Jim Montgomery was. I just think he had so many better pieces to work with that I would have given it to Dave Hackstall.
Yeah. Let's go to what do we want to go to next, Ann?
Let's go to the Selke Trophy. So this is the forward voted best to excel in the defensive aspects of the game as voted on by the Professional Hockey Writers Association. And I have a whole thing about that. But go ahead and give me your who will win, who should win this one.
I'm very torn on this because it feels like the Selke is a crapshoot every single year.
Every time, y'all.
Yeah, who knows if it's if it's actually the best defensive forward, if it's just a guy who had really good stats who happened to play defense. To me, the nominees this year are Patrice Bergeron, Nico Hischier, Mitch Marner. It's funny because, if you're looking at that, you would say, oh, well, Patrice Bergeron is the best defensive forward out there. I also think you're going to see a lot of votes for Mitch Marner because I think, him starting to play more on the penalty kill, him kind of taking on more of a two-way role while still having some big points. I think there's going to be a lot of voters out there that look at Marner and go like, oh yeah, like, look how much better, Toronto did, finally got past the first round of the playoffs. And it happened to coincide when Mitch Marner kind of took a step back and started taking some over, some of the main defensive responsibilities. So I would not be surprised if you saw Mitch Marner win here. If you're going just based on who the best defenseman, the best defensive forward in the NHL was this season, of those three, I think it's Patrice Bergeron. Mm-hmm. But, I feel like the Selke is such a crapshoot.
It is. This is one of the ones where I'm like, y'all need to define this better. The best defensive forward. Well, first of all, this is not one of those ones where you can pull up a stat very easily to evaluate that. Yeah. And when it's voted on by the Professional Hockey Writers Association, here's what's real. I don't know that they get as exposed to the volume of games to watch the nuance of the games that a trophy like this needs. So I think this one is a tough one for me. Like this is a hard sell for me. I do think Patrice Bergeron is going to win.
Yeah.
But this is one of the ones that makes me a little crazy.
Yeah. I'm kind of with you there. Speaking of awards that make you crazy, Ann, do we want to dive into the Norris?
Yeah, I mean, why not? Why not?
Right. We're still scarred from last year. So here's the nominees: Adam Fox, Erik Karlsson, Cale Makar.
Yeah.
All right. So
there are so many levels to this.
And the way the odds are kind of kicking around, I have feelings on this.
Okay.
Go ahead and lay it on me, Ann.
Okay. This one, I too have feelings on this, and I don't know if it's residual emotional scarring from last season or what. So I don't even feel like I can tell you who's going to win and who should win because I still can't figure out what the hell happened last season.
Fair, yes.
I would love to see Erik Karlsson win this. I would love to see Erik Karlsson win this. I understand that this is given to the best defenseman. And this is the argument that we heard last season when Roman Josi had an absolute knockout year offensively for a defenseman. Oh, but this is an award for best defenseman. And Erik Karlsson, of course, has these fantastic offensive numbers this season. So it's like, can you really give him the Norris when last season you said, oh, it can't be Roman Josi?
Yeah.
But I just would like to see Erik Karlsson win this. For one thing, you know what? He's an older fella. Give the man the award. He worked his tail off and kept a team that was not super competitive in there. Defensively, I get that he was not probably the best defenseman, but he also did not have a great team around him. I would not be surprised if Cale Makar won, although he only played 60 games this season. Yeah. This one for me is a crapshoot, and I almost can't even get emotionally invested in the Norris anymore because it is so maddening.
Here's the thing, Anne. So all the odds say it's all the odds say it's Erik Karlsson.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at what he's saying, it's like, oh yeah, he had all these points on a bad San Jose team, and he was defensive, but look at what he did and all of this and all of that and blah 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 blah. Wasn't the argument for Roman Josi last year? Wasn't that the argument that Roman Josi has this incredible point season, and everybody's like, oh well, yeah, but points aren't everything, and you got to play defense, and his defensive stats were, a little bit below these other people. I just think that the award should be best, defenseman, and, playing defense is part of that game. Erik Karlsson's defensive metrics were, on par with what Roman Josi was last year. He only scored 5 more points, so yeah, he had a 101-point season, but, that's not that big of a difference to be like, okay, well, everybody's saying it's okay. Yeah, everybody's saying, oh, his scoring is just so much that I don't think you can overlook it. It's not that big of a difference from Roman Josi last year. So to me, it's like, what's the difference? What's the difference between Erik Karlsson this year and Roman Josi last year? Because if you look at the same argument that a lot of people are making, last year for Makar over Roman Josi, you could say the same thing about Adam Fox should win it over Erik Karlsson. Adam Fox had 72 points this season for the New York Rangers on the blue line, which is very, very good. Mm-hmm. That's a very high-scoring defenseman. Had 12 goals, 60 assists. But his defensive metrics were through the roof. He's one of the best defensive defensemen in the NHL. So if you're going to overlook and be like, yeah, well, Erik Karlsson scored 100 points, what's the difference between that and Roman Josi losing last year, not even being on some guy's ballot?
Come on.
What's the difference? And if Scott Powers, if I see that Norris ballot and Erik Karlsson is anywhere in his top 3, I am going to freaking turn into the Joker at this point. Just institute chaos.
Nick is going to turn into the Hulk. But I feel that because 100% that was the argument last year. So are we going to stick with that's what the Norris means? And again, I come back to voted on by the Professional Hockey Writers Association, which, look, great association, incredibly talented, smart people.
Mostly. But there is no consensus on what that means. And it changes from season to season. And that will be very obvious if Erik Karlsson wins this year. So this whole award, I almost am going to plug my ears and the whole way through the announcement of this award tonight, because it is maddening to me. And I agree with you. If Erik Karlsson is on that writer's ballot this year, who left Roman Josi off entirely last season, I believe we need to sit him down and have a chat. Yeah. I don't know how this is. I don't feel like it's going to happen, but like I said, no. For the record, I fully support Erik Karlsson winning. I'm just like, why are the same people who are aggressively against Roman Josi last year not aggressively campaigning against, Erik Karlsson this year?
And I don't think you can say, well, it's because Cale Makar had so much better of a season last year, because that wasn't the argument. The argument wasn't, well, Cale Makar was so much better. The argument was, we aren't counting offensive stats.
Also, can I ask the question?
Oh no, go ahead.
Why was Cale Makar even nominated this year? He missed 22 games.
I know.
Like, there's so many better defensemen that played, the full season.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the
Norris makes us crazy, y'all. The Norris makes us crazy.
Yeah. Let's go to the last one, and another one that maybe a couple weeks ago would have made us crazy. The Vezina Trophy.
The Vezina Trophy.
The best goalie in the NHL. The nominees are not Juuse Saros, which that's a whole thing.
That's a podcast.
The nominees are Connor Hellebuyck, Ilya Sorokin, and Linus Ullmark.
Yeah, this is one where I'm like, should win, will win. I think Ullmark is going to win.
Yep.
And look, take nothing away from his stats. They're incredible. 1.89 goals against average, 938 save percentage. Here's a stat, though, that makes me think, for the love of God, give it to Connor Hellebuyck. Let's talk about the number of shots faced. Connor Hellebuyck was like Bugs Bunny with 100 Elmer Fuds surrounding him. I mean, Connor Hellebuyck and Juuse Saros need to start a support group for goaltenders who are just facing gazillions of shots. He faced the third most in the league. Saros, FYI, faced the most in the league, but he ended up tied for fourth in save percentage. Goals against average was not terrific, but Linus Ullmark, he was 16th in shots faced. This is a guy whose team in front of him really made his job a little bit easier. And you look at Juuse Saros, by the way, again, just want to highlight, not a nominee, and Connor Hellebuyck. And I'm like, y'all, they're doing everything. So I think Ullmark is going to win, and God bless him. Great season, great goaltender. So I want to be clear. I don't think he's not deserving necessarily, but I would really like to see Connor Hellebuyck do it, because, man, did he do a job in net.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to Ullmark had the numbers. And those are great numbers. And it's one of those things where it's like, it's tough because you don't want him to, take credit away from the situation he was in. He made the most out of his situation. The Bruins were just a very, very good defensive team. He had to face fewer shots. It's just, to me, what's more impressive, having, stopping 21 of 22 shots every night, or stopping 42 of 44,
or 62 of 65. Juuse Saros would
what's more game changing,
right?
Who is what's the better goaltender there,
right?
And that's to me is Connor Hellebuyck. I don't think he's going to win. I do think it's going to be Ullmark. I'm with you. I just think when you look at Hellebuyck's season and you start really breaking down the situation as much as you break into the numbers, maybe some of those advanced analytics and micro stats, it's hard to go against Hellebuyck. I mean, we had that same thing in Nashville with Juuse Saros this year. You take Connor Hellebuyck out of that lineup, that might be a bottom 5, bottom 6 lineup in the NHL. Connor Hellebuyck got them to the playoffs. It's interesting. I'm wondering, Ann, if the Predators get that last playoff spot instead of the Winnipeg Jets, I'm wondering if those spots are reversed. I'm wondering if Hellebuyck is on the outside looking in and Juuse Saros is your third Vezina finalist.
Yeah. I think that's a really interesting question. I think that could very well be true. And you know what? And you can say that, because we're Locked On Predators, we're biased, but I'm telling you, Juuse Saros was one of the best top 3 goaltenders in the NHL last season.
Yeah. And I will say, if the criteria for the Hart is most valuable to the team, I really hope that Saros gets, a couple of votes here and there, somewhere in the top 5.
Yeah,
because
for sure.
It's hard to argue about, outside of a few players like Connor McDavid, one player being as valuable to the team as Juuse Saros.
Season changer.
Yeah.
Season changer.
Yeah. So we will have your, stay tuned for the NHL Awards.
We'll see if they get it right.
Yeah, we'll see if they get it right. We'll see if the show is any good. Haven't really been good the last few years, but who knows? Maybe a little Music City Magic will change things. Also, more draft content coming up this week because, that whole thing is coming up in 2 days. We will talk about what constitutes a perfect draft for Nashville, plus some sleepers later in the draft that the Preds could steal and develop into some good players. Stay tuned for that conversation this week as well. And where can people find your work?
You can find my work online at InsideThePreds.com. You can find me on Twitter at ANK_Mama on Ice.
You can find me at penaltyboxradio.com. Follow me on Twitter at _NSMorgan. That's going to do it for us on today's Locked On Predators podcast. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day. We'll be back tomorrow with an all-new episode. We'll see you then.